Good morning students. So today we are going to discuss muscular tissue. So we have already completed epithelial tissue. So next type of a tissue we are going to discuss is muscular tissue. So it is derived from mesodermal layer of embryogenic germ cells. That means, as we know, after fertilization there is a formation of embryo. So in embryo the mesodermal layer will develop into muscular tissue. So this process of development of muscular tissue from mesodermal layer is known as myogenesis. So this is regarding the formation and development of muscular tissue. So when we see muscular tissue, it is different from other tissue, that is epithelial tissue, connective tissue, or vascular tissue, nervous tissue. So here the tissue is made up of thin elongated cells called as muscle fibers, and the cytoplasm present in the cell is called as sarcoplasma, and the membrane is known as sarcolemma. So that means the muscular tissue is made up of cells which are different from the other tissues or other cells. So here it has a unique property, the muscular tissue has a unique property of contractibility, extensibility, elasticity and excitability. So what do you mean by contractibility? So it is the ability of muscle cells to contract or to shorten forcibly. Extensibility, as the word itself will tell you, it has the ability to expand or to increase the length. Elasticity, it can come to its original shape or position after either contraction or excitability. Excitability means it works according to the nervous system. So the muscle tissue responds to the stimulus derived from a motor neuron or a hormone. That means the muscles will contract, extend or elasticity. These can be regulated with the help of a nervous system or a hormones. Therefore, it has a unique property called as excitability. So when we see the muscular tissue, it is always bundled. So it is not a layer, just what we have discussed in the epithelial tissue, it is bundled, and all the bundles are together and surrounded by a tough connective tissue. So the bundles of these tissue have a nerve cells, so thereby the muscular tissue can be regulated by the nerves or the neurons or the signals that has been sent by the nervous system. So what is a muscular tissue? It is a tissue made up of the cells which are thin, elongated, known as muscle fibers. They contain a cytoplasm known as sarcoplasma, and the cell membrane is referred as sarcolemma. It has a unique property of contractibility, extensibility, elasticity and excitability. So we will discuss in the next part different types of muscular tissue based on the arrangement of the cells. So muscular tissue is being classified into three types: skeletal tissue, smooth tissue and cardiac tissue. So we will discuss one by one. So first one is skeletal tissue. As the name itself will tell you, skeletal means it is attached to the bones or skeletal system. It helps in the movement of the bones. That's why the name skeletal tissue. So the muscles, as we see in the diagram, it has dotted lines. So these lines we call as striations. Hence skeletal tissue is also known as striated skeletal tissue, or in short striated tissue. These bands, some are dark, some are light. So skeletal tissue play a very important role in movement of the bones by contracting and relaxation. So these contraction and relaxation is mainly because of the proteins that are present in the skeletal tissue. The proteins will give up the striations. So these proteins are of actin, myosin, etc. So these muscles are totally in our control. That means skeletal tissue is voluntary. That means you can move them according to your will and wish. So these are under your control. So 40% of our body is because of the mass is because of skeletal tissue. So the skeletal tissue contains myofibrils and the cells are multinucleated. You can see they are nucleated and they provide the energy that is required for the movement of the muscles and organs. So this is regarding skeletal tissue. It is also known as striated tissue. It is voluntary, that means it is in the control of the person. So second one is smooth tissue. So as we see in the diagram, smooth tissue does not contain any striations. So it is non-striated. Second is it is involuntary, that means these tissue, the contraction or relaxation is not in our control. So it is controlled by the autonomic nervous system. So mainly this tissue is found in stomach, intestine, blood vessels, airways, etc. where the movement is totally under the control of autonomic nervous system. So the smooth muscle does not contain the striations that we see in the skeletal tissue, but here the filaments of actin and myosin, that is a pigment, they are very thin which cannot be seen. The cells are spindle shaped with single nucleus. Here it is multinucleated, but here it is in a single nucleus. So this is about smooth tissue. As the word itself tells, they are very soft. They are present in the soft organs like stomach, intestine, etc. So they are not in our control. So the last one is very important, that is cardiac tissue. So as the name itself tells you, this tissue is present in the heart. So myocardium, that is a muscle which helps in the contraction and relaxation of the heart. This you have studied in the circulatory system. So they are involuntary and the movement is rhythmic. But here in these two, the movement is not rhythmic. Here in cardiac tissue, the movement is rhythmic. It rhythmically contracts and relaxes. As a result, we heard about the contraction and relaxation of the heart that we refer as a diastole and systole. So the cells of cardiac muscle are known as cardiomyocytes. These are also striated just like skeletal tissue. And the striation is because of the proteins, myosin, actin, etc. They are single-celled and uninucleated. The ends of the cell are joined and you have branches. But here there is no branching, here there is a branching or a network. So each cell are joined together and the junctions are called as interconnected discs. The cells are attached by each other. So this is about cardiac tissue. So in muscular tissue you have three types: skeletal tissue, smooth tissue, cardiac tissue. Skeletal tissue attached to the bones, they have very high contraction and relaxation. Because of them we can move. The bones are moving because of the skeletal tissue. So they have a striations, hence it is also known as striated tissue. It is voluntary. That means it is in our control. The next one is smooth tissue. It does not contain any striations. It is found in the smooth organs like stomach, intestine, etc. Here it is involuntary. That means the contraction or peristaltic movement of the stomach, intestine is not in our control. Therefore, smooth tissue is involuntary. The third one is cardiac tissue. As the name itself tells you, it is present or located in the heart. The myocardium is made up of cardiac tissue. Here the unique feature of cardiac tissue is it always contracts and relaxes in a rhythmic way that we cannot see either in skeletal tissue or in a smooth tissue. Here also it is striated and it is branched. Each cell is attached to another. It is in a single nucleus or uninucleated. The difference between the skeletal tissue and the cardiac tissue is here you can see branches. Each attachment of a cell is called intercalated disc, and it is involuntary, movement is rhythmic. It is voluntary, the movement is not rhythmic. So this is regarding about 3 types of muscular tissue. So in today's class we have discussed what is a muscular tissue, what is the structure of muscular tissue, what are the important properties of muscular tissue, and the last is different types of muscular tissue. In that 3 types: skeletal tissue, smooth tissue, cardiac tissue. So you should be able to understand the differences between all the 3 types of tissue. So this completes the next type of tissue, that is muscular tissue. We have completed already epithelial tissue.